Hello and welcome to day 2 of, very importantly, overcoming digital dangers. It is so good to have everyone back here today, and I hope that you got a lot out of yesterday. I think it was a great session. I certainly went home with a lot swirling around in my mind and unpacked with my husband and said, there's a whole world out there. We need to get prepared. We have kids and this is what's going on. And I was quite excited though, because I didn't feel anxious. I felt like, hey, I've learned some new tools. So yeah, thank you to everyone's input yesterday, everyone's engagement. If you missed yesterday's session, then please, you would have got a link afterwards that gave you access to the recording. Go and watch it. It was a really, really, really good session. Please say hi in the chat. Tell us where you're from and what school you're from. I also want to encourage you, if you have any questions, down at the bottom, there is a questions little button. You'll see it says people, or you might just say polls, questions, chat. We'll be posting polls throughout the event. This is the way that we get you to be able to be connected to some of the speakers that you want to be connected to. There's also a little button that says react in the middle at the bottom, on the bottom panel. React like you are. It gives you emojis. It does not give you the full house of emojis. It just gives you a few exciting ones. So if someone says something that you love today, flood the screen with love for our speakers. They really enjoy it. Thank you for the thumbs up back to you. So today we have a great schedule, but before we get into that, we have a winner of a competition we ran yesterday. So I would like to say a very big well done to a teacher from Bisley Park Primary in Pietermaritzburg, to Liana Dupree. You guys have won yourself an incredible package that's put together from Be in Touch, and it is it is going to be on their way to your school soon, and they'll get in contact with you, and we really trust that your school and your learners benefit from that. Today we'll also be asking a question a little bit later for those of you who were on yesterday and today. So the question will look at something like along the lines of your best thing you heard yesterday. So I'm going to ask you later to post that, and there will be a nice sneaky little Take-A-Lot voucher heading your way. If you win it, we'll do a random selection of the best kind of comment. Right, I want to introduce you to one of my favorite speakers here at Schoolscape. Dean, you can join me on stage. Dean McCoubrey is from a company called MySocialife, and MySocialife really looks at helping schools and helping learners navigate social media, the online world. They're really just building into our country's youth in this regard, and they're doing a great job in doing it in really amazing creative ways as well, that I feel like will really speak to our youngsters. I mean, they speak to me, and I'm not that old, I think. Hello, Dean, how are you?
Hello, you're always so complimentary, best speakers and all that stuff. Come on, stop it.
Come on. You know you're one of my faves to have here. I want Dean when I have teenagers. He's going to be my personal life coach, I feel like. But welcome, Dean. You are shy face to this Schoolscape stage, and you've got a lot of good stuff to say today. And Dean, I think kicking off digital dangers, why don't you give us one-liner to put us at ease? It's not all doom and gloom, is it?
It's actually not. What we are sitting at is we're sitting at a great fork in the road. And that intersection will either take us towards digital dangers, online risks, or actually will empower our kids to explore their digital potential and reach digital excellence in a decade where it's going to get crazy competitive. So we need to choose which fork we're going to take. And that is dependent on actually the activity of the adults. The choices that the adults make will dictate what the outcome is.
Awesome. Well, we're all adults on here today, so let us kick over into our learning mode. I think I'd like to kick Dean's session off. Dean's going to look at social behavioral policy today, and really social media policy in that. And I know that Dean does a lot of good work helping schools navigate some of the trickier waters. So Dean, I'm going to hand over to you, and there's a poll. Please jump onto the polls throughout the session. If you want to be connected to Dean, that's our way to be able to navigate properly and be able to connect you to Dean. So say yes and amen and please, and we will do so. So Dean, over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ashley. And thank you to you all, Peter, Erika, Werner, all of you. And amazing outfit, and I really appreciate it. Right, so very quickly, I'm going to get straight into it because of time. I'm going to briefly, for some of you, there's some names on here inside the chat that I'm watching busily pop up here, just to explain to you exactly what we do at MySocialife. We are unique in the country in the fact that we've been around for many years, 4 years, and we've trained many of the independent and some public schools. But the real deal is that we train teens and preteens. We also train parents, we train teachers, and we train therapists, GPs, and psychologists. That is one of the big kickers for us, is that our differentiator is that we're looking at how the brain works, why we behave the way we do, how we can self-regulate and make better choices, and so on. But the most important aspect is that when you teach those 5 different audiences, teens, preteens, parents, teachers, and psychologists, what happens is you hear the different perspectives, challenges, and opportunities from all of those groups. That gives us a really privileged vantage point of what's really happening down on the ground. Since the very beginning, we have surveyed all of those audiences, which is a treasure trove, really, of insights about what's happening. And I think that's what excites me every day that I get up, is that I'm listening. I'm a great listener with my team to everything that's happening. Now, today I was offered, well, what would you like to talk about? And normally I talk about online safety, media literacy, digital citizenship, because that's what we teach. We teach 8 lessons inside schools. But I realized that what do schools want to know? Well, so many of them say, how do I stop my school reputation from being harmed? Or how do I stop from having a series of self-harm challenges happening on my campus? And I think when we think about it, often what schools say to us at MySocialife is they say, you know what? This is a parent's job. They should have better digital values and more home agreements. And I say, how is your agreement looking? Is it a large stream of text? Is it? Think about that now. Is it some big, long Word document that hopefully we get parents to sign and maybe there's a student signature? But is it meaningful? Does it connect? Is it followed up with any supporting training? And is everybody on that train? Okay. Annika, can I have a look at the slides? Let's ask you some questions. Now, when you look at these questions, what I'd love you to do is realize that the questions are not just questions, they are actually all the solutions. Okay, let's go. Let's take a look. So ultimately, I think in our trade, my trade, the online safety media literacy trade, there's a huge amount of fear mongering. And I want to try and stick to fact, because that's where I live through those surveys. Social media and online safety issues, and of course all the gold that sits inside exploration and excellence, is harming students and school reputations for students on a daily basis and for schools on a weekly or monthly basis. And it's even costing lives in some cases. Let's take a look here. This is November 2021. You'll see I politely didn't include the school name. Some of you may or may not know. Last year, Pretoria girl commits suicide allegedly after cyberbullying. We know all too well, there's no point in me even trying to hide this in terms of the resignation of the head there at St. Andrews after the water polo situation. This stuff is crashing. What for? For the reputation of your brand and the subsequent admissions. This can have an impact on the way in which your school is viewed. Warren Buffett very rightly said it can take 20 years to build a reputation and just 5 minutes to tear it down. That's what we're here for today, is for you to think about, are you adequately covered? So are you, in terms of clarity, policy, consequence? What type of consequences? I hear a lot of, well, we give out debits. Well, the students tell us debits. Most of them say debits, kind of whatever. And then they say, what are you going to do to put in place to stop the bullying? What is the consequence? And of course, I would imagine that in the room here today, there would be many people to say, hold on, Buster. You know what? This is not entirely our problem. This is happening outside of ours. True, but where does the blame lie? The blame lies normally in your park, and that's where it gets really tricky. So have you done all that you can to set boundaries, implement training, and to limit risks for students and your teachers big one there, and your brand. Think about that one. So mark yourself out of 10. This is going to be great. How on point, now when I say on point, I mean on point. How much do you know about the social landscape? That's why I use that glorious emoji. For any of you that don't know what it is, I don't want to go there right now. So mark yourself out of 10, between 0 and 10. How on point are you about the social landscape as it is? TikTok, fake news, all of those types of things. Have you crafted relevant, only that word, relevant social policy? Is it visual? We do not read pages and pages of contracts and agreements, so forget it. You're just going to get a signature, you're going to get no engagement or memory. Have you provided clear consequence to all in the stakeholder chain? Have you sought expertise in crisis situations? It's amazing. I reach out to schools, nobody wants the help because it's a closed door situation. The problem is we're seeing this all the time, and we're seeing it from all of those aspects. And that's why we've offered a crisis management situation. That's my old history before I started teaching kids. I was a reputation manager for large corporates. And I think it's really important because you've got to handle it with some honesty and some humility and with problem solving. Have you trained those parents? They're getting away scot-free right now. And how are your teachers doing? Lots of them say, it's not my gig, I'm afraid. I'm not interested. And when it comes to crisis management, have you prepped yourself with what you've put in place? Because if you can't go back with, hold on, I spoke to MySocialife. We're doing training with our teachers and our parents, and our students are being trained. This shows you how much it is out of control. So let's go there, right deep inside your school. Think about the person inside your school who's got it, who understands, and there will be people there, who understand digital citizenship, media literacy, online safety, cybersecurity, privacy, sexuality online, all of those types of things. Who's into it and who stays updated? I'm going to give you a moment to think about it. Who is that person? Now, say they're creating that policy and it is visual and you've scored really well out of 80 on that test. How often are you updating it? When I get sent policies, there's stuff in there from the arc ages. So I don't think that's really going to ride when, of course, someone says to you, but hold on, you didn't mention that in the policy. And that's the reason why we are now updating policies on a twice-a-year basis. We actually want to move to every term. So it's kind of really important. So we almost send you an update to the policy document. So would you say that it's really clear the expectation on your students? Okay, go there now. Is there poster campaigns? Are there competitions? Is there yesterday was online World Safer Internet Day around the world. And unfortunately, there's too little activity in this area. Are parents expected to just sign the form, or do you expect them to explain it to their kids? Even, is there a mini optional quiz so that people actually engage, you know, like what you guys do, engage with where your shortfalls are? Is there a parent training, not just on what's happening, but actually on the framework? And I know, I almost can hear some of you saying, come on, we don't have the time for this. Well, when you look at the costs, and if you look at the absolute inevitability that over the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, these issues will stumble onto your campus. It is an inevitability in the same way that we are all going to struggle with privacy issues and cybersecurity threats for the rest of time, because that's the nature of the dynamic of the internet. How are you bringing digital citizenship into reality? And what I'm talking about here is I'm talking about, I go to schools all the time and I see Red Rose Day, or I see X Day or Y Day, and I love it. But we are now offering a campus campaign around digital citizenship that schools can buy, ideas, innovations, visuals and graphics, quote campaigns that you can stick on the back of toilet doors so that everybody knows what you stand for and what you will not put up with. A lot of this is to do with what is your level of tolerance. Are the teachers establishing these digital values, the life orientation teachers perhaps, and are they skilled to teach it? Is there a policy for the teachers themselves? And I understand, because the feedback is, but hold on, I'm a maths teacher. This is not my gig and you don't get to oversee my life. I understand. But for the poor principal, well, actually, it's a little bit more complicated than that when you have a reputational crisis.
Dean, I'm just chipping in quickly to say that you have 2 minutes left.
I love you for that.
A little bit of a warning.
Because you know I'm on a roll. So ultimately, the way to do this is to bring the training into the school and coordinate that with the social policy. They're a combination. It doesn't matter who you use, doesn't have to be us, but ultimately what we need to understand is get that training in, then test whether the training and the policy has been absorbed, has it been engaged with? And then what you're ultimately looking to do here is to change or transform or upgrade or just slightly improve digital culture. That invisible ether that's sitting on your campus that people start to call out and be upstanders and understand, that if you're bypassing and using VPNs and cyberbullying people, there is a consequence there. And I can give you some examples of those. I always loved this quote. When I was a kid, my social network was called outside. But ultimately, I'm afraid to say those days are full and firmly gone. Yes, we are trying to now balance it, but ultimately, this is an incredibly heavy online life. Coming down the final straight, this is my last slide. Don't worry, Ashley. Understand the depth and the width of the risk. Do not be mistaken. Accept the cost of ignorance. Don't say it's not my school, because we always hear the not my child scenario from parents. Take that responsibility. It means that it's the beginning of change. Seek expertise. This is a massive and dynamic landscape. I don't know how anybody can keep up with it, because I barely can. Make it relevant, make it visual, update it, train stakeholders, get clear on those consequences, build that culture on campus, and remember, consistency, 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 over and out.
Dean, thank you so much. Thank you for your insight and your time. And I feel like, just the absolute depth at which you have made this topic known to yourself, and you so willingly come and share it with us. I know this is not the last time we will hear from you on this. And if you would like to, pick Dean's brain, shall I say, and get in contact with him and the guys from MySocialife, please do so in the poll. Dean, feel free to put your email address down and have a check out what MySocialife is doing. There's a lot of very, very exciting things coming up from their team. So we'll say goodbye to Dean. Have a good day, Dean. And next up in our agenda, we have the EdTech champion from Kyalami Preparatory School here with us, Patrick Thorp. And Patrick is going to really do one of our school inserts. We love hearing real stories from real schools that are winning. And we found that this school is really winning with the help of some of our partners from CloudEDU. And they've done some really good stuff in the school. And we're just going to hear what Patrick has to say today. And if you relate to maybe where they were and how they've got to where they or need to join on the journey to where they've got to today. The people to contact are CloudEDU, so they are going to be popping the information down. Please feel free to contact them. They really are the company that we've chosen to handhold you through this process. We know them, we've known them for years, and we trust them. And so, Patrick, welcome.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Am I loud and clear?
You are loud and clear, and I'm going to hand over to you to, share your story with us.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for that. Can we see my screen, by the way?
Yes.
All good.
Yes, your slides are up.
Stunning. Thanks so much for that intro, Ashley. And Dean, thanks so much for your presentation. That was quite phenomenal. I'm glad you got to go before me, because I can just insert that our digital citizenship pledge does come with pictures. So that's nice to know that we're getting that part right. But as Ashley said, I'm an ordinary bloke, school teacher. I head up the EdTech department at Kyalami Prep, which is a division of the Kyalami group of schools. We're a co-educational school up to grade 7. I also work with the boys' pastoral care. I'm a grade 7 English teacher, and I also teach, obviously, the EdTech from grade 5 through to 7. So I feel like it's a good intersection between the social and the emotional side of things, alongside the technology that intersects. As Dean was saying, it is prevalent, and I'm sure it's lovely to see so many people online at schools in the same sort of environments and journey. You must know that our online environment with our children is where they live for a lot of the time. So my roles at the school are really great in the sense that I really get to sit in that environment and see where they're coming from. And the situations that Dean expressed are all too prevalent and clear and increasing. So I just wanted to be able to come onto the platform, and thanks to Schoolscape and CloudEDU for thinking of me, and really just share our journey as a school and where we've got to. It's evident that we're all on a similar journey, EdTech journey, and that it seems like something I have learned is that no one's progression in the EdTech space is ever linear, and we never really reach the final product just because of the nature of the environment that we sit in. And so I think what's important to note is for those of us who are trying to make our spaces safe for our children online and for our teachers to operate in, that it's an ongoing thing, and you never quite get there, but I think the intention and the systems you put into place are really, really important. And so I really wanted to share a journey. But before I get to where we are currently in our journey alongside CloudEDU, who we've been in partnership for quite a few years now, I thought I'd give you some context just to give you an idea of where we were prior to where we are now, because I think it might resonate with a few schools who might be on a similar path. So back before 2019, end of 2018, when we started our journey, we had quite a hodgepodge environment in terms of technology. I think both Alister and Kevin would agree that our environment, we obviously intended to bring technology into the classroom, but we weren't exactly prepared for the ramifications of a vision that wasn't clearly thought out. So to give you an idea, our grade 6s and 7s were on an iPad program, so they brought their own iPads to school. We also had a bank of traveling iPads for classes and children younger than grade 6 and grade 7 that used to travel. Our teachers were on Windows devices. We still have Windows devices in our computer room. But what that really meant was that there was poor integration. Windows and Apple are like bad neighbors, and they don't necessarily like talking to one another. So the integration in classroom, what we realized just didn't really work. The lack of manageability, I did Google that, it is a word, brought up a bunch of safety concerns, which I'll sort of highlight a little bit later, but that for us was a deciding factor in the need to move. With the children and their iPads, we couldn't manage their devices as well as we had wanted to. We essentially had the protection of a firewall, and as Dean said, a long-worded code of conduct attached with a couple of consequences that certainly weren't clear enough, and they were very reactive. So if there's one thing you want to be in a space like this, it's proactive, as Dean was saying, because ultimately the words in the code of conduct are only ever brought out when there's an issue. And so the separation of private and personal at school just wasn't happening, and so children were essentially bringing a private device with very little control by us as a school onto campus, and that proved to be a real issue. The devices became toys and massive distractions. You didn't know what the child was doing, and there was no way of controlling it either. Practical things like the dissemination of work without a central point, like Google Classroom, for instance, made trying to get the work out there a laborious issue and full of a number of glitches. And then administration was an absolute nightmare. It was really difficult to control various IDs and licenses that were often under parents' names. So trying to get children applications onto the devices was really, really difficult. The tablet, in my opinion, it might not be a popular one, was very limited in its functionality. If we are going to integrate tech into school, then I think we need to mimic real world interaction with technology. And so for me, a laptop with a keyboard, a couple of USB ports is essential, and a trackpad. And then the troubleshooting was really, really difficult. It was a complicated system, and it remained the realm of the IT technician. And so when you're so disjointed from the goings on in terms of the technology as a teacher in the classroom, then it becomes very difficult to control anything the children are doing and have a grasp of how and what they are able to do. I think teachers at that stage had iPads, but to give you an idea, most of them really gathered dust. And the reason for that is that the environment we created in the school, because of the technological ecosystem we had that was so complicated, really just led to stagnation in the classroom. We have a lot of teachers online, and I'm sure you'll understand the demands in your time. It's classwork, it's curriculum, it's assessment, it's curriculum innovation, it's pastoral affairs, and then it's also being out in the sports field. And then schools come up with being digitally innovative, and they want to integrate tech, and they ask you to please bring technology into the classroom. It's a situation akin to asking a sprinter to swallow a hamburger on the way to the finish line. He's going to finish with some indigestion, a messy face, and he's going to be very angry with a poor time. It's just not really going to happen. And so what we had in the class was technology, but it was stagnant and there was very little innovation. Not to mention the safety of our students was certainly compromised. We had a number of social and emotional issues online. And so 2018 rolled around, and we realized we had to reevaluate our approach, which is where we move into the CloudEDU space and partnering with CloudEDU, who really brought us into and made us aware of the Google Workspace as a solution. What we really loved about this was it's a solution educationally minded and oriented. It's geared towards education, and up till this point, where we were prior to 2019, was that there was very little on the market that was geared specifically towards schools that we had found. What we loved about it, and this is central to creating an environment in which students and teachers are both safe and secure digitally, while on campus, was the admin console. Which is fundamental. It's the building block of our digital safety and citizenship in terms of the implementation of that in the school. And so what that basically allows you to do is create a framework and an ecosystem within your school that's customizable. So your school can select various policies and ideas that you'd like to disseminate and push on and create an environment in the school via the admin console. And this happens through every child's Google account and their Chrome education upgrade license, which allows all the rules that you've created in your admin console to be pushed onto all the children's devices. We loved that with the Google Workspace, a host of excellent educational apps and products were then available at their fingertips, and it's a whole nother conversation. But the fact that we could, in 2019, at the peak or the beginning of COVID, hop online and cope brilliantly was a testimony to just how brilliant the Workspace was as an online solution. But then also with the lack of social issues we had around technology, testament to just the control that we as a school could have without the children even being online. CloudEDU were phenomenal with support, and this is really important. You'll see I've got fads over there because prior to this as a solution for us, we were inundated with a ton of technical and technological solutions to integrating technology at school, and I think at one stage the teachers just became a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of fads and the cycle of solutions that just didn't really stick or provide any real solution to the experiences they had on the ground in the classroom. And so the support from CloudEDU with the Google Workspace meant that management and teachers got the support needed to help foster a digitally secure environment. It also allows for staff development. We created a policy where every teacher needed to go through training and acquire the level 1 Google certificate, which really empowered them because they are then familiar with the system they're dealing with. They can then troubleshoot. They're aware of any social issues that may arise, and then also be able to deal with it. And then ultimately, I think what's sometimes overlooked is teacher or staff input into a strategy you as a school are going to implement, because the admin console really allows the ordinary teacher in the classroom on the ground who's actually having to deal with and integrate technology. It gives them a voice. It's very easy and customizable, being able to customize your environment as an admin console. As a staff member, all you really need to do is ask the person who deals with your admin console to adjust the environment. Finally, the teacher-child integration.
I'm going to jump on quickly and say that there is 2 minutes left. I may give you one more, but yeah, that's just an indication of your timeline.
Thanks a lot, Ash. I'm almost there. And then, of course, teacher-child integration meant that our solution was complete as teachers got Chromebooks and integrated with the children seamlessly. So that was brilliant. It's going to move on to Chromebooks, and if the admin console provides the framework, then your Chromebook for us was an automatic solution because it became the vessel to help create the environment that we wanted and actually act out the policies. There was a host of benefits to the Chromebook. I like to split them up into 3 categories, namely classroom practical and then the safety aspects. Classroom benefits, they're fast, they've got excellent battery life. Children can hop on and hop off to different devices and maintain their personalized nature of their account. They're hardy, they're compact, and they've got dual functionality. Just going to accelerate through to safety very quickly, and this is ultimately why we decided it was the deal breaker for us. As I mentioned, Admin Console works hand in hand with our strategy, our code of conduct, our digital citizenship pledge, which Dean will be pleased to know has pictures in it and is very engaging. And it helps create our secure environment through the Chrome Education Upgrade License. We can action a lot of the policies that we want to implement through the admin console. It's customizable. We can block undesirable sites. We can push apps onto children. It allows us to block any communication outside of the company as well. So it becomes, what it really does is it allows the device that you're trying to integrate into the education system a tool and one that creates a safe and secure environment in which children can then participate, as well as the teachers, in a safe and secure tech environment. I think I'm going to end there. My connection is dropping. I'm not entirely sure.
You're loud and clear on my side, don't worry. Patrick, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your journey with us and your partnership with CloudEDU through it. And really, it's I think from us, it's a well done, and keep going. I know that we've heard from everyone in the last 2 days is that this journey is ever changing and the landscape is ever changing, and well done for taking steps to keep your learners and your staff and that safe. So it's exciting, and we'll have you in 2 years' time back on stage to make sure that you kept up the good work.
I look forward to it.
Awesome. Hello, Alister. Alister is actually the face of CloudEDU that we're going to hear from now. Before Alister talks, Patrick will say bye, we'll drop you off. Before Alister talks, I want to ask everyone in the chat bar. So Alister, you might know, or you might not know, is a former deputy of a school. So he really does know what you're going through, and we're going to hear a lot of his journey from the classroom today. But we want to hear some of your biggest concerns in the digital environment. I want to see what they are so that at the end of this, I can tackle them with Alister. So Alister, I'm going to hand over to you, but there's also, for the best one that we pick, nice 300 Take-A-Lot voucher that we will send your way. So we always like giving away Take-A-Lot vouchers at Schoolscape. It's going to become our thing. So we'll shoot that off to someone, but please share with us in the chat bar your biggest concerns in the digital environment, and then we can address this with the experts from CloudEDU at the end of this.
Good. Well, thanks, Ash. So I trust you can hear me. That's always a good place to start.
We can hear you. We can see you clearly. And yeah.
Okay, good. Well, listen, firstly, a vote of confidence to you and Peter and the team for putting this on. You know, sometimes when it comes to webinars, they kind of wash over you a little bit and you get complacent. But I have listened to each and every single presentation yesterday and today. I think partly because it's a personal thing. You know, I spent 20 years in education. In about 2010, I encountered my first bit of cyberbullying. I realized that this was a completely different beast. Like I felt like I had a good handle on bullying, and cyberbullying and the behavior there was different. It pushed me down a journey, an academic journey, where my postgraduate research was on cyberbullying. So I'm thrilled that people are talking about it and tackling it. The point of that maybe is just to kind of springboard into picking up where Peter left off. You know, discussing ideas is great. Warning people about the dangers is great. But if you're in a situation where you don't do something practically about it, you know, what was the worth of discussing it in the first place? You've only just scared people. So as you've quite rightly said, at CloudEDU, we have specialized. We believe that the best tool set and able to achieve all of this is the Google environment. Purely because of its functionality, its ease of use, its power. And so what I thought I would do, just the couple minutes that are provided to me, is give you some very practical tips that we would recommend to our customers, that we work with people that are in that Google environment, that will help safeguard. There is always going to be a 50% technical side to something and 50% behavioral. So let's just focus on that technical for a moment. So the first thing, when it comes to that Google Workspace environment, Google have something like 130 or 140 different applications. The first distinction to make is this is not Gmail we're talking about. We're talking about Google Workspace for Education. It's an enterprise level product that has your school's domain name on. When you have that, and like Patrick has done, you dish out school accounts to all your children, you then control their environment. Through that Chrome browser or through the device, the Google Chromebook itself, you get to control it. The first thing that we recommend to schools is, and highlight to them, is the ability to turn applications on and off. And literally it is by the slide of a button. The example I have up there, number 2, is Gmail. Now, when your kids are at a younger age and coming through the grades, you want them to collaborate, but you're still coaching them around etiquette and writing emails. Within the Google environment, based on what we call it OU, which is an organizational unit. In other words, I can take all my grade 2s or all my grade 3s, and I can switch off Gmail. They cannot use the email functionality, but they could use something like the video conferencing, because we need that for remote teaching. Google Forms, they could be doing something like that. So this is like fundamental, the ability to turn apps on and off at the click of a button in the Google environment, very powerful indeed. The second recommendation we make is around creating this ring-fenced environment. We do it at school. We put a fence around our properties to make sure our children are safe. The same needs to be done in the digital space. When it comes to content and engagement, it happens around your shared documents and your email. And here again are just 3 practical ways, again, that we recommend to clients in able to create that ring-fenced environment. In fact, Patrick mentioned one of them. First, restricted delivery. Children, particularly to a certain age, maybe from grade 10 upwards, it's not a problem. But certainly to a certain age, what restricted delivery does is it does not allow the child to send an email outside of your school domain, nor to receive an email outside of your school domain. You can have a curated list for certain services that you want to allow, but you create a ring-fence environment where you are monitoring all of the email communication within your system. So that's one. The second is what we call an objectionable content list, or a vloekwoorde list. We have lists of both words in English, Afrikaans, isiXhosa, and Zulu that will peel paint off the walls. Some of them are quite horrendous, but there are lists in place of hundreds of words where it would at least stop communication and deter communication between the children. The third one I've mentioned there is around Google Drive and the ability to share documents. We obviously want to encourage collaboration with our children, but how can we do it safe and secure? Well, there is an option within the Google environment, again, OU based. I can do this for students, not for staff. The students, we can say, okay, you can share documents, but only within our school or potentially schools that we're working with that we are whitelisted. So those are 3 great ways to be able to produce that ring-fenced environment. Patrick made mention of user-based policies and device-based policies, and I'll mention those 2 slides and then we'll close off. But when it comes to user-based policy, I've picked out 3. 1, you can turn off incognito mode, so that if you don't know what incognito mode is, it's the ability to go online and the history of your session is not saved. You can disable that. 2, you can stop the child from clearing the browser data. Oh, can you hear me? The connection went for a wobble there for a second. You can stop the child from clearing the okay, good, the browser data. And then the 3rd one, you can force Google Safe Search. So really great settings from a user-based side. From a device-based side, you can do things like switching off guest mode, so they are forced to log in with a Google Workspace account. On top of that, building on that, you can force them to use your school domain. I've just put in there @example.com, but you could just fill that in with your school. In other words, they cannot log in with a normal Gmail account. They have to have your school account. And then the 3rd one is what we call device hours. So outside of school time, you can release the child to use their own Gmail account for their own uses, so it can be their own device, but you can take control and shut down access to that Gmail account during the school. So those are just some practical ways where the device and the user are kind of coming together in harmony to be able to create that ring-fenced environment for schools to be able to protect. The great thing about this is it's simple and easy to implement, and it just works. So that's it for me. If you need to know any more information, please info@cloudedu.co.za or alistair@cloudedu.co.za. Also, just to mention, in May, we have the Innovate EDU conference. There's the link to it. We're bringing out 9 international speakers on a wide variety of different topics. Maybe the one just to mention, because we've just confirmed, but Stuart Swan is a Lego and robotics expert from the UK. All of these 9 international speakers, and we're going to be at Parklands College on the 6th and the 7th of May. Fluit, my stories like that. Do
well. Awesome. Alistair, I think one big question I wanted to ask, and I think that Heidi put it in very good words. We are dealing with children. They are emotionally mature. We have to be realistic about how they're going to behave, react, and anticipate it. But what do we do with our kids practically, I think, in the classrooms when they are consistent offenders? What are the kind of consequences that you can implement? Is it more educating them constantly, or is there actually measures that you can put in place with these kids that seem to cross the boundary over and over and over again?
Sure, that's quite a deep question. So Ash and to Heidi, I think the first part to that is there must be room for our kids to fall over. We talk about helicopter parenting and all these kind of buzzwords, but the idea of that we should be given the room to make mistakes and correct those mistakes and learn from those mistakes. I think that's a critical part to being human. I've certainly made my slew of them. You just need to ask my wife. I think she keeps a list somewhere. Yeah, exactly.
And we're not children, hey, so you know.
But there is also an element of we don't want to open up the front door and let our 2-year-old walk out into the street and just randomly kind of wander the street. We need to have guidelines in place there. Schools talk about an ethos, or they talk about some sort of code of conduct, and how we respect and engage with other people. That's a critical part to it. If somebody breaches that code of an agreed, well-communicated code of conduct, I think there should be well-communicated, age-appropriate and crime-appropriate punishment as well for that. And I think that needs to be made explicit. A kid may be excluded from accessing a device during school time if there is a repeat offense. So I think there needs to be clear guidance on that. Again, I'm really not recommending that at the starting blocks, but there must be consequences for actions and they must be appropriate.
Good. I think quick one. I mentioned yesterday, I was told a funny story about I work on a Chrome device and that. And then Marlies Ferreira spoke about intellectually impaired kids working on devices and how to keep them safe online. I think when I think of my Chromebook, I think of many different functions on it that are good. I allow my 6-year-old or my 5-year-old, who's turning 6 soon, to play on my Chromebook, and I don't feel nervous about it. So yeah, maybe you can just kind of give, I know you guys are from a more Chrome perspective in that, but just give a little bit of the practical handles of what that actually creates in that environment.
So, I mean, listen, there are certain elements of our society that are far more vulnerable and will need far greater guide rails in place to be able to protect that. And there's that, and as older kids get, so maybe they need less of those guide rails. I think what's great about the Google Workspace environment is, depending on the specific situation, you can decide and make a strategic decision at a management level, and the policies that you can implement in Google make it really, really simple. So if you are in a school that has special requirements and you need to put greater guide rails in, it might be something like we turn off email altogether. We allow the communication, or maybe we allow email, but only in a certain grade. Inside that certain grade, we turn off chat. So there are ways in which the items I've mentioned right now could be used to be able to match that environment.
Awesome. Okay. And then I'm going to conclude with this. Top tip for cyberbullying in our classrooms when we see it unfolding. First reaction. What do we do?
Oof. This is a difficult one.
So
I have an answer to that. Keep the evidence.
The evidence.
Often, and I say this and I speak quite widely about it, I say this to parents, I say this to teachers, I say this to kids. Often there's a reaction to kind of delete the evidence because we're either shocked, we don't want, the kid may not want the parent to see because they're so scared that their device will be taken away. Like, that's a real issue. Often kids keep quiet around cyberbullying because they're concerned that their own rights to their phone will be taken away, and as a reaction by the parent. So keep the evidence, make sure you keep an open conversation, don't overreact. There's a tendency to overreact. I get it, I understand it's an emotionally charged environment, but treat it as a learning experience. Often children, and I'm talking, I'll throw out a number here, but this is not based on any other research other than my gut being in this space for a long time. 9 out of 10 of those situations are not malicious. It's because children have said something that is slightly edgy, slightly funny, that works in social media, and they haven't realized they've crossed the barrier, because text is the lowest form of media richness. Face-to-face on the one side, text on the other side. When they get the message, it's often in time and space. The person who said it doesn't see the empathy or the empathy doesn't kick in because they don't see the reaction. So, often it's about humor. So keep it a teachable moment.
Brilliant. Brilliant. We heard a lot about that yesterday as well, and I love it. Josh said something like talk, open the conversations. So I want to...
And Josh and Dean did great. I was really impressed with both.
Yeah, I mean, I have chats with them and I feel like my brain goes... So absolutely. But if you are looking for any of the offerings that you have seen, read through the chat. There's lots there. If you were focusing on what Alister has to say and you've missed that, there's lots there that explains more of what CloudEDU does. They do not simply deliver Chromebooks. That I can say. There are still the ones I phone when I'm stuck on things, but they don't just deliver Chromebooks. There is a whole cohort of things that they do, and they can really help your school move forward in this area of safety, policy, discussions around all these things. So book an appointment with Kevin, book an appointment with Alister. If you want us to connect you, there's a poll. Please go look for the poll and we'll connect you with Alister and his team. They can just send you more information on what the offering is, and you can start that conversation. Otherwise, thank you so much, Alister. Thank you to the guys for CloudEDU. You really do a lot of work in space and help us make these events possible. So we appreciate it very, very, very much. And you must have a great afternoon. So I'm going to say goodbye. Bye, Alister. Till the next time. We will be seeing Alister and his team face-to-face at our Schoolscape Premier event coming up in March. So we're super excited about that. And before I hand over to Brendon, welcome on the Schoolscape stage. I'm going to give you a quick little insight. We are going back to in-person physical events at Schoolscape. So we have loved our online world. I've just got photos from Rickendale school, and they are the entire school's watching it in different venues. So the headmaster sent me photos of all the different venues. Their whole school is online with us today. So welcome to them. But we would really like to see all, if you're in a decision-making role at your school, to come to our in-person events. We'll pop the registration there for free. The 4th of March is in Cape Town. 11th of March is in Joburg. Come and meet all these amazing companies face to face, and we will give you coffee and nice food and all kinds of fun things. So that's a little insert from us and our Schoolscape events coming up next. But what's next on the stage for Schoolscape is a new face. So Brendon, Botha, you are from, let me get it right. Oh no, I've lost it now. Break Free. It was in my head and then it flew out. So you are from Break Free. What I have heard of your journey from my colleague Anneke is that it was one that everybody with kids or everyone working with kids needs to hear. So we're very excited to have you here today. And tell us more about what Break Free does. I know I think I need to use the words focused on harmful, explicit imagery, but I think we can all relate to the word porn. It's fine. We're allowed to use it here. And this is a massive topic with our kids today. And we're really excited for you that you've taken the time, well, for us, that you've taken the time to share with us. So welcome, and I will keep quiet and let you go.
Well, hi, thank you very much for having me. Just to check that you can all hear me fine.
Perfect, loud and clear.
Right, awesome. I started Break Free with my wife probably about nearly 5 to 6 years ago now. The focus of Break Free, as you said, is to raise awareness about pornography and the harmful effects that pornography is having on our culture and society, not just in South Africa, but across the world. I am a trained IT administrator by trade, so I implore that side to try and look at what we can do from a technical point of view to try and not only handle the exposure, but even try and prevent exposure to porn. So I'm going to jump quite quickly in. Before I do, just why I am somebody who speaks about this is I was introduced to pornography through a friend from school back when I was around 8 years old. And what ensued from there was about a 10-year battle with a growing battle with pornography. And it just got worse as internet became available, and then fast internet became available. And so I know what it's like to be on that end, but I also know what it's like to be on the administrative side, the protection side. So I'm hoping that this might be useful for you. What I'm going to do is share my screen with you. And you should.
I think while you do that, Brendon, what I want to say is if you have any questions, I know this is a tricky topic to navigate, but this is an open, safe space to all our educators out there. Please use that questions tab, pop your question in there, and I will happily ask it at the end of Brendon's talk now.
Sure. My wife is also on in the chat, so if I'm busy speaking, she can also answer some questions. Just to start off with, what is pornography? And Psychology Today, they put out that any material, whether written, visual, or otherwise, that consists of sexually explicit material and that is intended to arouse is pornography. So that is what we're dealing with. It's anything that is written or visual. And so that's great to know, but what about it? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it neutral? Does it depend on how you use it? So I'm gonna jump into that a little bit and just look at some things that we found. So we found that Dr. Simone Kuhn in Germany, she released some peer-reviewed research on porn, and she found that through MRI scans that they scanning the brain of people whilst watching pornography, they found that areas of the brain that light up are areas that identify objects and not people. It's a way in which people are able to identify tables, chairs, that kind of aspect of the brain that lights up. She also found that grey matter in the brain of people who view pornography often has shrinked, has deteriorated, which has other neurological issues, and that kind of like emotional regulation also has an effect. We've got a combined study done by MIT and New York University, and what they found is 88% of porn sites depict violence, and it's traditionally and most often it's violence from a man towards a woman. So this is gender-based violence that is predominant online, but 95% of that was the person receiving the violence meted with either no emotion or meted with pleasure. And the study also then goes on to say that what this is teaching, particularly people who are younger viewers, it's starting to change their sexual script, that they see that sexual violence is normal or expected or wanted. So this is not looking good for pornography from that side, but it goes a little bit further, in that we find pornography also has direct role in human trafficking. There's a number of institutions across the world that deal with particularly the human trafficking, sex slavery side of this. But the state of Minnesota in USA in 2018 released a bill that officially links pornography and sex slavery and human trafficking together. Just to give an example, end of 2020, there was a huge amount of social pressure on Pornhub and its owners, MindGeek. And at the end of that year, Pornhub then eventually ended up removing 13 million videos that were either child sexual abuse material, or were sexual abuse material, or were non-consensual videos. 13 million. That was more than 3/4 of their website was removed through this through the social pressure and the publicity that they were getting. Just also an aside to that, so there's some really good movement going on. Just recently, in the last 2 weeks, the UK government are now officially they're taking to their parliament in the next couple of weeks that a bill that they're trying to pass that forces porn websites to do age verification of people coming on, as well as age verification of people who are in the videos. So that's a good step going forward. But to bring it home a little bit, let's take a look at South Africa. So Pornhub themselves, they released some stats, and South Africa, unfortunately, fell within those stats. So Pornhub releases the stats of 80% of their daily traffic, which countries form 80% of the daily stats. And South Africa, for a couple of years, was in that 20 list, even in the top 25. So since 2020, they haven't released anything, thankfully, because of all the pressure on them. But unfortunately, during the start of COVID, there was a massive spike in their viewing. And that goes a bit further than still. The average age, and this is true for South Africa, but this is particularly global, the average age of first exposure is between ages of 8 and 11 for various different reasons. It's not all just because they are seeking out pornography. So it's not just that. There are different reasons for that. But South Africa is not far from the stat, unfortunately. This is also a stat recently done in some research done, I think it was in 2016, where children who are the proportion of urban and rural children who have seen sexual images in the last year, that's quite a high stat. So around 50% of kids have seen it. But then you go to those who have received a sexual image. So whether that's being centered on social media or whether they've seen something, that's still quite high. That's a quarter to a third. And then those who actually sent an image, this is for minors. This is ages between 13 and 17, I think it was. So this is a high stat of children who are sending and receiving sexual images online. The problem as well, though, is that children really don't know how the internet is used or how the internet works, and they therefore get involved in this from a negative point of view. they don't know, and they'll very quickly happily share all their videos and images online, but what they're unaware of is what's going on online. They're unaware of how many servers there are, what it takes to back up and produce a website, and how to keep that website online. So they don't know that there are multiple servers often. So something like Facebook has, I think it was 38,000 servers. So that's just to keep Facebook online. But then they've got servers that will back up anything that is live. And so the kids are just unaware of how the internet works. And they then happily share all of their life story online without this knowledge. And it can be used to their detriment, unfortunately. With the tools that are around, people can very quickly get access to images and manipulate those images to the detriment of a child. So for the sake of our thing is, why do schools need to know this? And the biggest thing, I think, is that schools, you'll be the first people to see a change in a child. There generally are a few ways that a child will change, that some would start really lashing out in anger, become generally more aggressive, or others, they become quite anxious and depressive. You'll see loss of concentration, many times loss of short-term memory. Some children will start being isolated. They start isolating themselves from their friends. Often you'll see it as a sports coach. You'll see it on the field where a child who used to be pretty interested or used to be pretty active they start losing interest in those things that they did have interest in. But as a parent, you'll also start seeing secrecy. And there's a difference between secrecy and privacy. And secrecy is they're trying to hide something. And so as educators, you often are the first guys to see this, not many times before the parents. Also, what's coming up what has been coming up in a growing issue, unfortunately, in schools is sexting. And unfortunately, in sexting, there's a heck of a lot that is exposed. Like I said, that children don't understand what is the ramifications of what they're doing. But sexting also is an illegal offense in South Africa. It's classified as child sexual abuse material. And somebody found guilty of this can unfortunately also face jail time of around 9 to 10 years. There's 3 counts that you get. There's creation, possession, and distribution. And all 3 counts carry a 3-year sentence. So this is a serious topic and a serious offense. And it is currently under review by an organization called the South African Law Reform Commission. But also, as an institution, as a school, needs to also be aware that because of the bills and amendments going through in the background at the moment, there's a big shift towards, there's a big change in law towards the responsibility being placed on organizations that provide a service also to provide protection, particularly for minors. So we're seeing this also not just in South Africa. So in this last week, the USA, they've released their Earn It bill, where they are placing a lot of responsibility on organizations to verify and to verify ages as well as to protect children. The last few things I want to do is just want to say, so what can you do as a school? And a couple of things from an IT point of view, you have to have these things in place. Firewall is your first line of defense, and a good firewall at that. But that's only to stop, or filter things coming in or going out. You also have as a point of entry as well as on the computers themselves or on the individual devices. So you need an antivirus there as well. And from a POPIA point of view, encryption is a really good thing. With us, we have got a partnership going with SafeSurfer to cover all 3 of. Sorry, with Sophos to cover all 3 of those, and we've organised some great packages with them. But there are some other options as well, of various pricing. They are really good. They're really good manufacturers, and they're really great to have on your system. From a home point of view, when children go home, though, we've got a partnership with SafeSurfer. They are a parental control service. They filter internet really well. There are a couple of others available as well online. but these are needed in order to protect your child, even yourself. So personally, on a lot of my devices, I have Safe Surfer, just making sure that I'm protected and filtered. Just from a relational point of view, some do's and don'ts, and this is what I'm going to end off with, is when a child comes to you, please do not display emotion. Don't display it on your face. You might be blowing up or doing something inside. That's perfectly fine. But try and keep your face as calm as possible. The shock that you show on your face is read very quickly and can have a negative effect, the opposite effect actually of what you're wanting. As well as the words that you choose to use, please be careful of that, because as soon as somebody who opens up and is vulnerable with pornography, as soon as they open up, if they get criticized or if they get shown to the effects of what they're doing, they very quickly will turn back to pornography because they feel safe there. So really be careful of what you say. The last two things I want to say is just offer support wherever you can. Even if you don't feel like you're equipped, offer to be a person to walk with them. And the last one is to be informed with facts. One of the things I've used often is I will use facts, but I'll be pretty blunt and take away the stigma. And you very quickly start finding that as teenagers, they start opening up and start coming back to you for answers. So that's where I just want to end off with that and just say, if you want to find more about us or if you want to chat more, please feel free. We are more than happy to get involved and point you in some right directions. That is all I want to say, and I hope that wasn't too much of a bombardment.
Awesome. Thank you, Brendon. I think that, yes, a little bit. This is my brave face for everyone to see. But no, I think this is it's such a ginormous topic. It has to be addressed. We can't talk about digital dangers and not look at explicit content online. It is what our kids are facing. If we look at those stats, it's scary. But yes, please, if this is something that you are facing in your school, if you want better handles on it, if you just want to be better informed on it, connect with Brendon and the team from Break Free. Do so through the polls. You can just pop on and say, yes, contact me and we can do that. But thank you so much, Brendon. Thank you for your openness. Thank you for the pioneering you're doing in this area. I think all of us, parents, teachers, schools, are appreciative of it. And keep going. I think that we can all agree that there's a war on this kind of thing that we need to rise up against and teach our kids well to navigate. So thank you. And I'm going to pop you off and we hopefully will hear from you again soon.
Sure. Cheers.
Awesome. So we are wrapping up then for today. I'm going to quickly invite Dean back on stage. Dean wants to jump on. Dean and I are going to just have a quick discussion in closing around some of these things that we've heard now. I know that everyone might feel a little bit shaken, a little concerned. So I am going to ask Dean some of his insights on it. I don't know where Dean is. In the background, there's Dean. Dean, I want to give you 5 minutes quickly. Welcome back. I think this is a topic that I know that you do a lot of addressing in schools and that you have very, very much first-hand experience with the schools on. I think if schools are concerned, if they're facing something like this at the moment, 2 minutes, Dean, what is your next best steps and tips for really navigating this in our schools?
So, I mean, do you mean particularly the pornography or do you mean all of this?
I mean the pornography, the sexting, all the terrifying things we're hearing about now. But the explicit content of sexual nature that we're seeing kind of infiltrates into our schools.
It's funny because I was thinking about it, that it always comes back to this grasping of the depth and the width of really what there is in front of us. As soon as we as the adults supplied the devices and the tablets for learning, there is a responsibility for us to go that deep and go that wide and start to understand it. And a lot of people say, but how would I do that? Well, the way in which you would probably do that is to engage with these types of partners, amazing partners, people talking incredible sense, all of them, and use that expertise. But if not, just start with a basic Google alerts. If you want to find out what's happening, you go to Google Alerts, google.com/alerts, and type in parent review plus TikTok or latest dangers online with regards to sexting or sextortion or stranger danger or predators. It will give you a daily email and tell you what's been happening around the world. It's free. And I think that the real deal here is that when we understand the width and the depth, let's just say of porn, but next to porn is, as Brendon said, it's the potential for trafficking, but it's also sextortion, which we're seeing a lot of. It's stranger danger and predators. The movie right now that everybody's talking about in school is Tinder Swindler. Kids are watching this and they're seeing it. And so, there's an app called Yubo, Tinder for Teens, with the UX of Snapchat. It's got all the functionality that is extremely attractive. We need to remember it's there. And that's why you need the expertise. If you don't know about Yubo, you're not going to know about what type of sextortion could be happening and how you can protect kids. Final point. It takes a village. So the deal is that when you said, what can we do? I think it's about bringing in that expertise, making sure parents and teachers understand the gravity. Is sexuality online, not just sexual dangers. It's about all aspects. What is sexuality? And it's diverse. And then finally, coming to things like Alister Payne, it's to bring in the technology, the settings, to bring in the IT department. Takes village.
Takes village. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dean. I love your insights. And we're going to close with that. Unfortunately, we are time up, and I know that everyone needs to get going and go back to their home and their own families with a new wealth of information. I think in closing, we want to highlight again that there is overcoming to these digital dangers. It's not all doom and gloom and scary. We love technology. We love devices. We need to have them. Dean said it himself. We need to move our kids forward. We need to be open to it, but we do need to do it in a realm of safety. We need to stay informed. We need to know what the kids are doing, what they're using, what they're looking at, and have these really, really vital conversations with our learners. And so thank you for everyone who's been here today and yesterday. If you missed yesterday, you should have got an email that gave you access to the replay. The guys from Be in Touch really dug deep yesterday as well. There's some really good content in there, so go take a look at it. And I think from Schoolscape's side, thank you again to our schools for all the amazing things that you are doing with your kids to keep them safe. We appreciate it. We appreciate the kind of level and standard of education that our kids are getting, but also the care our kids are getting in our South African schools. Lastly, and again, I'm going to drop Dean off. Thank you, Dean. Smile and wave for the camera. Over and out. If you are in Cape Town or if you are in Joburg and you want to meet companies like some of them that we have seen today and hundreds more, please come and join us at our Schoolscape Premier events. We last did them in 2020, and we are so excited to, I can't say wine and dine, but wine and dine all our very, very, very faithful, wonderful Schoolscaper schools, and we would love to see you there. So you're going to get a pop-up on the screen now. It'll direct you to registration. If you would like to register for that, please register for that. We would love to see you face-to-face. And it's going to be a very valuable day, just a one-day event in Cape Town, one day in Joburg on the 4th and the 11th of March, to explore products that will move your school forward, but with a great focus on learning this year. So I'm going to be over and out now. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone that made it to the end with me. I hope everyone is not going home too nervous. But yes, we have a great role to play at bringing up and raising wonderful, emotionally mature, secure, and safe kids in our schools. And thank you for your part that you are playing. Goodbye.